Can anybody out there imagine a person that's confident about something and they're wrong, right? I don't want to get into what it is that they're wrong about because different people will have different examples. But I think it's fair of me to assume that you have such an example that you could think of someone else very confident in something, that something is true or the case that you know is not really the case. But they feel confident, and their feeling of confidence is much like your feelings of confidence. There might be some uniqueness to it, and probably their reaction to that feeling, the chain of emotions that follow, might be different. Oh, not interested. But they're going to be similar, just like feelings of hunger, unique to different people, and more or less intense, stuff like that. But the same feeling from the same neurology, neurochemistry, basic construction of your neural system, which is doing the feeling, presumably. So this person's wrong. They're having that feeling. We can all imagine that. That's the only case we're thinking about. There's a guy, he feels totally sure, but he's wrong. Now, in this situation, thinking just of this one poor guy that somehow got in this situation of thinking he was right and feeling certain he was right, but he's not. This guy, this rare individual, if perhaps, or common. One way to describe the mistake he's made is that he's misapplied his emotion. He's misapplied that feeling. He's let himself have a feeling of certainty and comprehension in the wrong case. It's no different from like placing your love in the wrong, your trust, let's say, is a better example. Placing your trust, feeling that's a sense of trust for someone that turned out not to be trustworthy. The solution is to place that feeling in the right situation, to trust the right thing. Because while he saw some evidence and he got the wrong conclusion, he ought to change what he lets trigger that emotion. And with maturity and experience, it'll happen slowly, naturally. People will slowly learn from some of the lessons that they're faced with. Right? So from this guy's perspective, this guy that sometimes feels confident that something is the case when he's wrong, he needs to mature that emotion and place it in the right. He can't just ignore that emotion, because if he did all the evidence perfectly right, comes up with the system, but he doesn't feel confident that it's correct in the end, then he'll be making the mistake of not believing in a true system. I've made that mistake before. Skeptics are prone to that mistake, not believing in a true system. But the nice thing is that it's very small systems. Big picture systems is very hard to get totally wrong as a skeptic. Little tiny situations like the reality of pi as a number, is it really a genuine, what is, those kinds of things. I've misunderstood little tiny systems, little tiny analytic systems. And that's part of the learning process, of course. But this person is going to have to get better systems. But at the end of having that better system, he's going to have to feel confident at some point, or else he will not have finished the process. He will not have the knowledge that he has recalculated and put the knowledge on the table before him. But if he looks at that, and at that point still can't feel confident in it, then he won't actually have that knowledge. He won't believe that knowledge. So you have to have the feeling. The issue is of putting it in the right place. And it's very much the same with trust. You have to be able to trust certain things. Nothing is absolutely trustworthy. Nobody can be perfectly always apt in where they place their trust. And yet, the feeling of trust is necessary for subsequent actions, to make plans and to try to execute them, even though they won't all succeed perfectly. In fact, all of them won't succeed perfectly, but many will succeed well enough. They have flexibilities in them. Perfection isn't the main issue, but of course, plans get adjusted along the way. And the fact that they're not perfect, it doesn't change the fact that you need plans in order to accomplish things. You need a plan. And if you want to think better, you should have a plan to improve your relationships and control and influence and understanding of the analytic emotions, which is just the subset of emotions that we use in analysis. And I'm going to help with that because, after my online friend Hythloday betrayed me and stabbed me in the back and shunned me, I had to rethink stuff, and he made a pretty good, he made the beginning of a point, and I thought it through it. I could see what he's saying. Treating people like we're just having a conversation among equals might be disingenuous if you think the other person is, sorely mistaken. And he likened it to, somebody's putting, I don't know, paint in the gas tank of their car, and you're like, hey, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't drink that paint. The person's like, hey, don't tell me what paint not to drink. And you're like, no, let me explain. That's more helpful. So I'm a teacher now. I'm teaching you. That's why your responses are to be taken as the questions of the students, because that's the more noble thing, right? Or at least that's the experiment I'm trying right now. I tried the everybody's an equal conversational. Now we're doing the if you want to be treated like an equal, prove you're equal. Otherwise, get out your notepad, start taking notes.